Helldivers 2 is a third-person, cooperative, democracy-based shooter where you risk your life to squash bugs, kill bots, and generally spill oil. Lately, there's been some controversy, and the Helldivers community is divided. Chaos Divers are team killing, the automatons are on the brink of invasion, and the community is having an identity crisis. I'm here to tell you we can save Helldivers 2. So let's dive in. First, let's list a few things that Arrowhead have done well. Just to be fair, the game is incredibly cinematic. The war bonds are available forever, and you can earn premium currency in-game. On top of all of that, they didn't have a hefty price tag. But there are a few things they need to work on. Yes, I talk about the Impaler and the flamethrower, but I think they stem from more fundamental issues, and I break them down as follows. Player agency, meaningful options, and communication. But TW Halfling, what is player agency? It's what makes games fun, separates them from movies, and its acronym is something Kristen Stewart can't do. You guessed it, ACT. You see, she's sad I said that, but you just can't tell. ACT, or ACT, stands for actions can be made by the player, consequences occur as a result of these actions, and thought can be put into their options.
Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
Arrowhead does this very well with its big picture. Hear me out. We take action through missions to defend or attack planets. The consequences of these choices mean changes to the world map and our rewards. And thought can be put into our options, based on mission objectives and what rewards we want to obtain. Take the ATM meme. We could choose airburst or anti-tank mines. We chose the airburst. Anti-tank mines or children? We chose children. And finally, we were given a near impossible task.
That's quite big.
And we failed. Thus, we obtained the anti-tank mines. We came together as a community, we achieved great things and had fun. We took action, we lived with the consequences, and had enough information to put thought into what we wanted to do. We had player agency. This is part of the reason Helldivers 2 was so special. The community could work together with Arrowhead to create a story bigger than themselves. And as soon as that communication broke down, things started to fall apart. But more on that at the end. Player agency also applies to the mechanical level, and that's where Arrowhead starts to fall short. We have a ragdolling issue on the bot front. Having action forced upon you just isn't fun. So some people exclusively play bugs. Now, I love a few goofy space adventures as much as the next diver, but if it's constant, that joke gets old pretty quickly. How did Arrowhead try and fix this problem? Well... And now, not even the bug divers are safe. With even less control over their actions, many players have begun boycotting the game. Pair that with weapon nerfs, and a history of breaking promises, and you develop a group called Chaos Divers. Do I think that review bombing a game and team killing people is the right solution? No. Review bombing has its place, but ruining other people's fun by team killing them just makes you as bad as the thing you supposedly fight against. Okay then, TW Halfling, how can we fix this? Let me talk about consequences, and then I'll give you some examples. Consequences give actions meaning. If you arm a Hellbomb, you expect it to go boom. But if you didn't arm said Hellbomb, and it goes boom anyway, you feel cheated, because it happened to you, not because of you. It creates a false difficulty, because although the first ragdoll might have been a skill issue, was the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth? You get the idea. You need to be presented with a challenge that can be avoided, mitigated, or countered. Take the Impaler. You can't avoid it because sometimes you have absolutely no idea where it is, and then it one-shots you. In Helldivers 1, the orange part of the tentacles faced away from the main body, so you could always tell by looking at them where the Impaler was. And if you know where it is, you can choose to run away, or you can choose to run in and fight it. You can kind of mitigate the problem by killing its tentacles, but that doesn't work very well. They have a massive health pool, and even if you do kill one, it spawns in another. And whilst you're trying to do that, the other two tentacles are bouncing you around. Arrowhead could limit the number of tentacles the Impaler could spawn. This would reduce the enemy's threat level, just like taking the arms off of a hull.
Reloading.
Sure, it can stamp around a bit, but it's far less dangerous than it was. What about something that's proven to work for both team and solo play? Give the tentacles a grab mechanic, and then you can button mash or shoot your way out of it, or teammates could shoot it and save you. If you've played Sea of Thieves, then you know what I'm on about. You can try to counter the Impaler with a personal shield because it blocks the AoE knockback. That takes up your backpack slot and it locks you out of a couple of other options. Instead, they could make the Impaler require line of sight. That way, if it's hitting you, you know you can hit it back.
Pow.
This also gives smoke screens a buff. These are just a few options that would give the players more agency. More agency is more fun, and more fun means we save Helldivers 2. But TW Halfling, you didn't talk about the T in ACT, or communication. Thought is when you have information about the consequences of your actions, and a couple of tools to handle the problem. That way, you can decide what you want to do and how you want to do it. I can choose to use 120mm within walking distance. Was that a bad idea? Yes, but it was my bad idea. Kind of like when Arrowhead decided to add more ragdolling. Was it a bad idea? Yes, but it was their bad idea.
Why is no one having a good time? I specifically requested it.
For players to enjoy full agency, they need a lot of tools to tackle a problem, and that brings me on to the next section. In Helldivers 2, we have a lot of options, but not a lot of choice. This is called a meta. Bug divers deal with hordes of enemies. What would you choose? Well, the fire shotgun sounds cool. Look, no one wants to use the same weapon over and over again. But if it's the best option we've got, it's the one people are going to use. You wouldn't punish somebody for making the right choice. That wouldn't make any sense. Oh, Arrowhead. You can't just make everything equally bad. What are you, communist? This causes issues for game balance.
Help me!
Because they're treating symptoms and not problems. If I scratch because I'm itchy, an arrowhead cuts off both of my arms, am I no longer itchy? Or can I just not scratch myself? I think you get my point. They're not actually fixing the problem. I guess what happens when a problem continues to exist and you take away the best solution? We combine our collective 3 brain cells and find the next best option. That becomes the new meta, which will get used by more people, and then Arrowhead or nerf it, so we have to create a new meta. You get the idea. This can easily be fixed by finding out what the problem is. If players are having trouble with the copious amounts of behemoths running around at higher difficulties, and the flamethrower is a good solution, what do we do? A. Nerf behemoths. B. Nerf spawn rates. C. Make anti-tanks better. Or D. Nerf the player's current best solution and provide no alternatives. No, Arrowhead, D was not the right answer. Controversial opinion. I think nerfing the flamethrower to not kill tanks was a good idea. A. Put the pitchforks away. Let me explain. If fire mechanics stayed the same, not only would the flamethrower be better than anti-tanks, but we would also have a primary and a secondary weapon that could be better than them too. If this was Arrowhead's line of thought, they were on the right track, but the train stopped a few stations short of its destination. Now correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think that anti-tank weapons should be the best at killing tanks. So if you're taking away our ability to deal with lots of behemoths by fixing fire, then please give us another way to deal with them. Make them easier to kill with anti-tanks in general, or change one of the anti-tank options so it's better at dealing with various enemies at once. No, Arrowhead, the anti-tank mines do not count. Look, no one's going to complain about having 30 behemoths to deal with if they have a chance of dealing with them all. This game was defined and popularised by cinematic moments. Let players' actions have positive consequences because they thought of a solution. Give us meaningful options to replace the ones you take away. If you let players keep their agency, or swap it with something else, the game will stay fun. The best way to do this is to properly communicate with the players. If you do this right, you can build up trust with your player base. And if you've earned their trust, they'll give you more than enough time to do what you need to do. And that brings me on to my final point. This is arguably my most important point. Imagine if we tried to listen and understand each other. Helldivers 2 would still have a positive rating. Over 170 countries would still be playing the game. And I would still have my medical license. You know that futuristic meme? Yeah, that's the one. Arrowhead have been trying to communicate their ideas. They explained why they made certain decisions, in the hopes that players would be more understanding. That's great, but their particular approach has 2 problems. How many of you actually sit down and read these things? Be honest. I do it because I'm a YouTuber and I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Most people, however, will either not care enough to read it or get a filtered rundown through somebody more popular than me. So Arrowhead's attempts at communicating with the community as a whole might not be reaching all the people that it should be. And the other problem, if you explain your side of things without properly listening to the other person, you're just gonna cause more friction. They said a few times we want to make the game fun and not balance with spreadsheets. But they keep making the same mistakes over and over again. So it's no wonder the community is confused. Half of them think the game should be a power fantasy. You should run around with overpowered weapons, cause massive explosions, and revel in the murdering and onslaught of enemies in the name of democracy. This idea was advertised through the PS5 packaging, the trailers,
Dispense peace with the ultimate weapon.
and our missions. You wouldn't leave saving children and the future of Super Earth to cannon fodder, right? The PS5 bugs didn't help either, making things like the railgun able to kill them in a couple of shots just added to the power fantasy. The other half of the community think this is all part of that nuanced political commentary the game's based on. You know, reading between the lines, we see a satirical take on Super Earth being a capitalist dystopia, and the government is lying to us about it. But I'm not here to get political. Basically, they think we're glorified cannon fodder. This is evidenced by the illegal broadcasts, the training we received, the life expectancy of Helldivers, and the replacement divers having different voices.
Helldiver, reporting for duty. Democracy for all. Helldiver, reporting for duty.
So one half of the community thinks we're meant to be in a goofy sci-fi power fantasy, the kind of game you can play after a long, stressful day of adulting. Grab a can of Super Earth's finest, kiss your significant other, and then chill with your group of friends. You don't want to think too hard, you just want to kick ass and feel good. After all, why not? It's a PvE game. Who's gonna complain if you're too strong? The bugs? The bots? The other half of the community? Oh, they live life in the fast lane. Raw dogging a Monday morning with 4 hours of sleep and a can of Monster Energy. They want to be shot at, exploded, and bathe in the blood of their enemies. And then, when they're done with that, they turn on Helldivers 2 and play on the highest difficulty. Both sides love this game, because both ends of the game are possible, depending on what difficulty you play. Arrowhead is trying to cater to both. On one hand, they lowered the difficulty required to obtain super samples from 7 to 6. This made the upgrades more accessible to a casual audience, and it didn't impact the higher difficulties. Then they added Super Helldive, allowing you to have a socially acceptable reason to cry yourself to sleep at night. Adding things for players, rather than taking them away, seems to be working well for Arrowhead. I would have liked a better reward than a few samples for Super Helldive though. The path to having a high skill cap but still casual friendly experience is a difficult one. It requires a lot of careful planning and design. Players need more agency, meaningful options, and you need to communicate with your players, not to them. They're changing how armor works, reworking some enemies, and tinkering with a few weapons to give us more viable options. If they do a good job and apply it to more weapons in future, it sounds like they're fixing meaningful options. And making updates based on player feedback is a step in the right direction for communication as well. Not sure Hulks and the autocannon needed changing, but time will tell. These new changes will be added on the 17th of September. and I think I'm gonna need to remake a few videos. Wait a minute, TW Halfling. You said we can save Helldivers too, but you've just been explaining what Arrowhead can do. What can we do? Well, communication is a big part of all healthy relationships, and there's clearly some trouble between us and Arrowhead at the minute. At one point, everyone agreed we had the best community, but there's a lot of toxicity and negativity now. We need to give Arrowhead constructive feedback. Share my ideas with them, or better yet, tell them your own experiences and solutions. Use the channels provided, their official Discord, and submissions through the website. I'll link them below. Remember, nobody will listen to you if you're just complaining or being obnoxious. Try to add something and be civil. Otherwise, we'll be hypocrites. We save Helldivers 2 the same way we made it great in the first place. As a community. We freed the creek. We saved the kids. Every time our backs have been against the wall, we pull together in the name of managed democracy. Let's use this power to help Arrowhead make the game we all want it to be.
Join the Helldivers.
And Arrowhead, if you're listening, give players more agency so they can have fun. Make meaningful options a priority for balance, after crashes and bug fixes, and work with us to communicate so that we're all on the same page. And if you say something, you have to mean it. I wish you luck with the rest of the 60 days. We really hope you can pull this off. If you couldn't tell from my voice, I've done enough talking for the time being, so I'm off to do some more Super Helldives. Thanks everyone for watching, and good luck out there, divers.